Now, as far as payment for service to the Persian state, and when I mean service, I mean military service. Remember that the Persian state is a military empire. So the greatest service you could do for the Persian state is military service. Meaning, if you're a very effective archer, effective horseman and charioteer, you can get land as your payment. This is not unlike the Romans that distinguish themselves in battle, and upon their discharge, get land as a payment. So you're going to get land as payment for service to the Persian state, and high officials will have local overseers manage your extensive holdings. So in the event that you're good enough to get yourself a huge parcel of land, you can't manage it yourself. You're going to be responsible for military duty, which means you get somebody to stay home, and he's going to act as your overseer. Now, the serf worked the states. The serf, and is there anyone here who does not know what a serf is? I don't mean, surfing, okay? A serf is a peasant who is tied to agricultural production. They're not slaves, but they must stay bound on the land doing agricultural activity. The serf, and this is spelled S-E-R-F, the serf worked the states of Persian-ruled Egypt and Babylonia. The serf worked the states of Persian-ruled Egypt and Babylonia will produce abundant crops of wheat, barley. Barley is a very good cereal grain. It grows very well under saline conditions. Saline means salty conditions. It grows very well in brackish water. Okay? Dates. I don't mean the type you have every weekend. I mean the fig like fruit, of which I like very much. And sesame and millet. And millet is a type of cereal grain. And abundant crops of these are produced. Now, as lucrative as production was, and you need these crops because if you're going to have an empire, you need to have people eat. When people die, you can't tax them, they can't fight, so you have to make sure that people eat and eat well. Now, production is lucrative, but as lucrative as it is, Darius is always looking to augment crop production. And this is how he's going to try to do it. He's going to renew Babylonia's welter of irrigation ditches. Okay? Babylonia had a whole mess of irrigation ditches, but the irrigation ditches would become overworked, eroded, not properly maintained, salt collection was not taken away from them. So in effect, what he's going to do is he's going to reestablish the irrigation ditches. In the arid Iranian plateau and the Zagros Mountains, in the arid Iranian plateau and the Zagros Mountains, water for agriculture had to be brought in from highland springs. It has to be brought in from highland springs, but the problem is that it's brought through a semi-desert, which basically means what, Mr. Azizi? What does it mean? Are you with me? Are you okay? Did you get proper rest? Okay, I need you to stay with me. Anyone else who's paying attention? Lawrence. Very good. Evaporation through semi-arid conditions. Thank you. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, to prevent this, Darius is going to order the construction of long underground aqueducts. And we've seen these long underground aqueducts before. We remember what they're called. Very good, Alan. Canals. Okay? Which bring more land under cultivation. And what's interesting is you're going to see some adaptations by Darius that are going to make agriculture burgeon in the Persian Empire. First of all, you're going to see the implementation of what will be known as a Persian wheel. The Persian wheel is a water wheel, and it's going to raise the level of the water. And you want it to raise the level of water so this way you can irrigate. Okay? You're going to see the implementation of Persian wheel. And then you're going to see Persia begin to make trade with other countries so it can diversify its food supply. What other countries? China. China, at this particular point in time, is under the Zhou dynasty. And this is what Persia is going to get from China. They'll import rice. They'll also import what the Greeks refer to later as Persian fruit, and these are the fruits that come from China. Don't worry about it. That's who they're trading with. Okay? Yeah. We don't have to worry about that. It's not a class on Chinese history. This is the government that they dealt with. Yes. That's okay. It's all good. Peaches and apricots. Very good. And that's what was referred to as Persian fruit. Now, cultivators are urged to try novel farming techniques. Cultivators are urged to try novel farming techniques, and they're going to be encouraged to grow unfamiliar crops. So what's going to happen is you're going to see crown agents. Yes?
Are these cultivators the serfs?
The cultivators will be the serfs, right. Anyone basically involved in growing crops. The cultivators will be urged to try novel farming techniques and grow unfamiliar crops. Now, crown agents will forward seed packets. Okay, crown agents will be forwarding seed packets for use in different satrapies. And I'm going to give you an example so you can see how the food production of the Achaemenid Persian Empire is going to skyrocket. What you're going to see is you're going to see Indian rice grow in Mesopotamia. Rice that was in India grows in Mesopotamia. Grapes and pistachios from Anatolia and Iran. Grapes and pistachios from Anatolia and Iran will grow in Syria, and alfalfa, that's basically a cereal grain slash grass feed. Alfalfa, doves, and peacocks will be brought to Europe through Persia, and alfalfa is usually used for horse fodder. Alfalfa is usually used to feed to horses. That's correct. And alfalfa is used for horse fodder. It's used to feed horses.
Where is this coming from again, the alfalfa?
It's the alfalfa, doves, and peacocks will be brought to Europe by Persia itself. And sesame from Persia will make its way into Egypt. Sesame from Persia will make its way into Egypt. So this gives you an idea of all these things that are being bandied about. Now, if you look at this just as some kind of, boring grocery list of items, you're missing the point. What this basically means is it's culinary diversification. And when I taught history of science years ago, and I asked people why human beings live longer now than they did before, usually most people raise their hand and go, because of medicine. They can't even cure the freaking common cold. Okay? It's because of greater hygiene and greater food diversification. Remember your food pyramid? And remember how you're supposed to get all sorts of different nutrients? Look at the panoply. Look at the farrago food that's now readily available to the Persian Empire. They augment their food supply, ward off starvation, and malnutrition. When you do that, you keep the population healthier. A malnourished person is more susceptible to epidemics and disease. Okay? So this is actually very important. And all of these items are traded. Trade means money. And it also means taxable income to the state. So keep in mind why it's important. Now, Darius, yes, I'm sorry, Josh.
We're saying that Darius has made like a lot of innovations. Is there versus like a lot of other leaders? He's a military expert. He's great at bureaucracy. He's great at that. Where is he getting most inspiration on this innovation from?
Good question. It's like asking why some students like you are very good and some others suck. It's like asking why some scholars are very good and others not as much. It's individual variation, right?
What was his muse?
Good question. I think this is a very ambitious man who was very talented, and he basically had a certain amount of charisma, and he had the ability to think outside the box. It's one of these things that's inexplicable. And I mean, you see it sometimes with families too. It's interesting, but nobody in my family was interested in history. Yet I was. When my father did read, he tended to like to read novels about the mafia and, organized crime. I don't know what that says about him, but, it's individual variation. If you're saying that this is an extremely capable man, he is. And that's why the empire will prosper. Because you see, if you have someone like this ruling an empire, the empire is going to fare well. If you have, on the other hand, a dolt presiding over it, he's going to preside over its demise. Right? And in the future, you're all to go behind me. Yes? Rice, I think, is good enough, Alan. Okay? As well as peaches and apricots. The rice itself is good. I'll tell you, red rice is a great crop to grow. Both wet rice and dry rice. Rice has a lot of nutrients in it. And there are over 2,000 varieties of rice. And without going into detail, it's because China came up with a quick ripening strain of rice that actually caused China's population to burgeon during the Qing dynasty. In 1830, China had over 400 million people, more people than we have in the United States right now. And that had to do with quick ripening rice. There are over 2,000 different varieties of rice, excluding wild rice. Wild rice is not rice, it's a type of aquatic grass. Yes? Well, that's going to come sometimes invariably. And you can't fool Darius in the event that the trade would bring people into contact with other pathogens. For the most part, hygiene and food diversification, everything was different back then. People tended to have, on the whole, throughout the world, a much shorter life. They didn't understand the microbe theory of disease that was postulated by Girolamo Fracastoro in the 15th century, but he didn't have a microscope to prove that. So it wasn't validated until Pasteur, the French chemist, would actually prove the germ theory of disease by using a microscope to basically identify staph and strep infection. Yes, please. Generally speaking, anthrax, smallpox, mumps, TB, rubella, diphtheria came from animal transmission to human beings. But human beings could transmit it from one to the other too. But it's not a history of epidemiology. so I don't want to take it outside. Remember what I did say, that I need everyone, while your questions and comments are all welcome, to keep things as tight as possible, okay? And I have to proceed. Paul, wait 1 second, if you will. Is it urgent question? Go ahead. Okay, not a problem. Let me get back to you on that. Yes.
It's also one of the main areas of domestication of numerous animal species.
That's 100% true.
And brain, and that's why it's a cradle of civilization.
Very much so. And it has riverine loci, very much like India had and China had, and Egypt, of course. These are your great riverine civilizations. What you say is, in fact, 100% true. Now, Darius is also going to standardize currency, and he's going to prohibit gold coinage outside of his royal mint. So no one could basically coin gold outside of the Persian royal mint. That's within the empire. And he's going to impose a standard value for each coin. And you know what I mean by standard value for each coin. Go into your pocket, you take a look at the coins. You have a quarter, you have a dime, you have a nickel. That's a standard value for each coin. Okay? It represents what each coin is worth. And there'll be a standard value for that. Why? So this way it makes currency transactions easier. Okay? As you know, ladies and gentlemen, that a barter, you know, to go around me. Like, how many times do I have to say this? Holy shit. Basically, in effect, you know that what coins do is they're going to facilitate transactions. Okay? In the event that you're a butcher, I need a steak, and you need light bulbs, okay? I'm going to have to figure out where the hell you are. You're going to have to figure out where I am, and then I have to figure out how many light bulbs equal a steak. And by the time I find out where you are, you find out where I am, we waste a great part of the day, and we love stuff back and forth. Isn't it easier to carry coins inside a purse which have a recognized standard of value to facilitate trade? And Darius understands this. So that's what he's doing. He's creating a universal coinage for the Persian Empire. So what he's going to also do is he's going to create a coin that has a standard value that's accepted as far away as Central Europe. This is going to be a coin named after him. It's going to be the gold Darius. As Central Europe.
When they do come into contact with other coinage, is there any way to change money or?
To tell you the truth, back then, you didn't have an established currency system in Central Europe. It was as backward as you could possibly be. Okay? This is going to be like, how should I say, and I see you, Pamela, I'll be with you in a second as soon as I finish. This is going to be kind of very rustic in Central Europe. Persian is an advanced civilization. Europe, during the, Central Europe, during the 500 BC, is basically a bunch of half-naked savages running around. Okay? Now, I'm basically being a little extreme in how I say that, because it's kind of cold up there, so I imagine they wouldn't be as half-naked during the winter. They freeze to death. But it's basically agrarian. It's not an urban-based environment like the Persian Empire is. But yet, they'll find these gold coins to be of immense value and give up a lot of animal or agricultural wealth for it. Okay, David? Now, Pamela, you have a question.
You might have just answered it. Once this is created, he establishes this, what happens to the practicing creating gold and frankincense and all that? Does that continue?
Okay. It will continue because he's going to tax people based upon what they have at hand.
What they
to
can
pay.
offer.
Right. So he's not going to expect an agricultural surplus. It's not tied into an urban-based currency economy where most of the currency is going to trade. It's going to trade mostly internally in the empire in the cities. Okay? It will find its way out of there because gold and silver have universal value in other civilizations. Pamela. But if it's going to be an indigenous farmer, he's not going to be tied into the Persian mercantile economy, so he is going to have to pay an agricultural produce or anything else in here. Yes, Josh?
On an economic level, it was still based off of gold. Like, it wasn't like not valued based on how much gold you could trade for it or how much it weighed, was it? It wasn't like
what's going to happen
abstract
is
value.
when he develops a royal mint, Josh, he's going to standardize the size and the weight of the coinage, okay? And what will circulate inside the Persian Empire itself will all be standardized. And he's going to standardize weights and measures too, so that this way you don't have one coin that's filled with base metal. He's going to have an exact weighing of say 100% or close to 100% gold. Okay.
Is the gold
Now the gold,
worth its weight in gold?
yes, you might say that. It might have come from that, but I'll tell you one good thing about gold. It's soft, it's malleable, and you can melt it very easy. So you could turn it into other objects easy and also change, in effect, its weight and standard. However, if you cannot do that when it's already minted by Darius, that would be a crime. That would be like, in effect, making your own money. Okay? Yes, Liz?
Can you just repeat what you said about gold Darius, because it's something about gold?
Yeah, he's going to create, in effect, basically a royal mint, and it'll impose a standard value for each coin. And the coin that he's going to use as a standard gold coin is known as a Darius, named after him. And it's going to circulate as far away as Central Europe, and it's going to have, of course, universal value. Now, what the coinage basically does also is it enables countries to directly trade with each other, which had not done so before. Why? Because once again, it's a lot easier for me to carry a bag of gold coins to trade with someone far away than it is for me to take oxygen. Okay? So think about it that way. If you're willing to accept gold, it's very easy for me to ship that. Okay? So that's an advantage to a specie economy. And specie, of course, means coinage. Now, basically the areas that a lot of this coinage will circulate in will be Babylonia, which already had a specie-based economy, and mainland Greece, which Persia will have issues with later.